He put a lot of his eggs into one pot all of a sudden, and that one pot didn't work out, and then it just totally drove his empire down. I watched the Sean Quinn documentary, The Bakrupt Billionaire. That guy, Sean, had so many spinning plates and opportunity momentum that just kept driving him to win, win, win. He didn't even know what a loss felt like. I think next year I will be formulating what everything is going to look like for the next 3, 5, 10 years, because I will be taking a big decision to see which path I'm going to really push on. Hey everybody, welcome back to Built From Scratch, episode number 25 with Erik and Dara. We usually start off by giving a brief introduction, so I'll start off with this one. My name is Erik, I'm 24 years old, soon to be 25. Dara just entered the 24 league as well, of your 8 beautiful years of entrepreneurship. I'm in the digital transformation space and the edtech space with 2 companies. One is Grafton Digital and the other one is Olive for Education, where we're just on a mission to really disrupt the markets and bring some new, innovative and exciting software out there.
My name is Dara. As Erik said, I just recently turned 24. I am CEO and co-founder of Magnate. With Magnate, we're trying to reduce the amount of time that people spend on messaging because most of it's unnecessary. We're also co-owners of Sky Park, a rooftop car park in Galway City, where you can pre-book online today. And yeah, we have the podcast together. So
absolutely.
And we've been building businesses for the last 7 years.
7 years, I know. It's kind of your grey hairs are coming out, but
I actually have a few in the back of my head.
I'm surprised you still have the hair. You know what I mean? I was thinking at this stage you're gonna lose it all with the startup and everything.
We're both fighting it, you know.
Yeah, we're both in the ring. The man in the ring.
Oh, big time! The man in the arena. Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, absolutely. How are things with you? How's your week?
Good. Yeah, like I suppose it's I suppose the big one for us at the moment is just tying off what features are going to go live kind of end of this month, start of July, because we're going to go from building in private to building in public. So everything then going forward is going to be completely public. People see features and fully accessible. So it's a tough one to draw a line in the sand because there's always more to do. There's always more you can do. So we're going to take the plunge and start building in public so everyone have access going forward. From then, so that's exciting. And then, yeah, gearing up for pre-seed then as well. So that's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I learned a lot on that at the moment. So it's really good advisors around us.
Yourself and Aaron are getting ready to boost it up and go for it.
Yeah, so no, it's exciting. How about yourself? How's your...
My week's been pretty good. This week I was supposed to be traveling a little bit, but I actually decided not to travel. Just in general, I was like, my time goes better here at the moment. And I didn't realize how exhausting it can be just to travel constantly, you know, and I definitely underestimate it going to flying to New York for like a day is like quite intense on the body and the brain. So I decided, actually, I'm going to San Antonio to be at an educational conference at the end of the month. I actually don't know what the name of the educational conference is. I was going to say it, but I'm speaking at that conference at the end of this month. So I'm really excited to go and check it out and see what's going on in San Antonio. I've never been that side of the world. And then I was going to go to Puerto Rico in July to visit Garrett, but Garrett's no longer in Puerto Rico. He's now in New York. So I might just have to go on my own. So we'll see if Jeremy might pop over. You might pop over as well while you're in the States. And might just text a few people, see who's going to come around to Puerto Rico for a month.
Is that an open invite to the audience?
It's an open invite to the audience. I'll be in San Juan from the 4th of July, what a day, to the end of July in San Juan. So if anyone's out there, like Jake Paul, if you want to come around or anything, you know, feel free to come around.
Oh God! And what are you talking about? The conference is obviously it's an edu-tech conference, I think.
Yeah, it's all about edtech. I'd actually like to just listen in a lot of what's going on in America with edtech. It's such a different market to Ireland and the UK. We are very much in primitive type learning environments at the moment here, just adapting AI. There's so much, you know, technologies emerging, and I want to go and have a look at what is America doing in this space. What is, you know, the UAE doing in this space. They're like real market leaders, always have been for edtech. So I'm going to have a look at that. And then I'll be talking about how we have significantly scaled our presence here in Ireland, why we have scaled our presence in Ireland, and what makes us a driving force of transition from analog to digital technologies. And what we're trying to do is actually change the conversation from owning a device to actually having software and power up students across Ireland with software to give everybody an equal chance to participate in this world. I think these are really basic, essential skills now. So know how to use a laptop, get online, know how to Google, and you know how to learn, find technology to adapt to your learning styles, kind of deep dive into all that. So I'll be kind of talking a little bit about that on a panel discussion, and then I'll be just going around and seeing what everyone else, the real global market leaders, are doing, and hopefully take some of that knowledge and maybe some software back to Ireland.
Cool.
That would be my ideal outcome.
Yeah, and I know you've been super present. I saw Ian, CEO Olive, was down in Sydney at an event. He's in London at an event as well.
Yeah.
So you really are boots on the ground at the moment.
Absolutely. Ian's doing a fantastic job abroad. So Olive, the wider company we're part of, actually has an office out there, and is doing a lot of health and safety business out there, and technology consultation and transformation also. And we're a Google partner, so Google is holding global events and bringing a lot of key partners together. So Ian's on a roadshow at the moment to go in city to city, to go around and present and talk about what we're doing and understand what everyone else is doing in the Google ecosystem. So the two main players really are Google and Microsoft that we'd be involved with. We're not actually involved in the Apple ecosystem at all. It's just a different conversation. It's just trying to early. You want to get good at one or two segments of your business before you try to be everything. And we are just trying to stay very, very much focused on the Windows and the Google ecosystem right now. That's what we have expertise in, and we like to just stick to our guns in that level.
Yeah. So what's your summer? I know you're going traveling abroad, but what's kind of on your mind coming up to summer now? What are you kind of planning at?
You know me. I'm always doing a few things. I actually watched a really cool documentary last night. I've never watched this, but I watched the Sean Quinn documentary, The Bakrupt Billionaire, Quinn Country. It is definitely amazing, and it really shows you. Whether obviously there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of bad things that happened as well in the documentary, and a lot of things that shouldn't have happened. It just really shows you that guy Sean had so many spinning plates and opportunity momentum that just kept driving him to win. He didn't even know what a loss felt like, and that's when, if anybody hasn't watched the documentary, I highly recommend watching it. I won't spoil it too much, but essentially he put a lot of his eggs into one pot all of a sudden, and that one pot didn't work out. There was a bit of a rotten egg there, and just the markets and everything just wasn't working out, and then it just totally drove his empire down. And the minute that he tried to pick his empire back up, his inner circle actually started pushing him out and not letting him back in. So he went down twice with a multi-billion-dollar. I didn't know this, but apparently, your insurance levy that you pay, that's because of Sean Quinn. Every 2% of insurance premiums, that's the Quinn levy. That goes to what call it the default that, Sean has left after himself. That's to contribute towards that. It's the Irish taxpayer. That's why there was the whole kick up over that. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
But overall, you can't just, I suppose, judge the man on that one bad decision in a way. I think he has 40 years of extensive business career and created hundreds, thousands of jobs, built up communities. He's done so much. And the reason the violence and everything started actually when he got stepped down and everything, people were outraged that Sean was the guy. They were so loyal. The employees and the team and everybody around him were so loyal to Sean. That's why, up in Fermanagh and everything, there was nearly civil war type situations with, companies coming in and trying to buy it, and examiners coming in and trying to take everything he had. So it's really interesting to watch.
I'll give a watch, yeah.
I think he's 74 or 75 at the moment, still alive. Rumours say he's worth 100,000 euros, and other rumours say he has $1 billion buried in India. So we don't know which one it is, but he's definitely lived a life of a real hardcore entrepreneur. He didn't go to school, didn't want to go near university. He was a farmer and just went built up a quarry, built up building supplies after that. And he was like, I have so much trucks on the road. I'm paying £1.5 million a year in insurance. Let me just start Quinn Direct, an insurance company. And then started creating businesses on his own business's needs. And it just grew to be a multi-billion-dollar empire.
Crazy.
Known worldwide. And I think that's when I watched it, I was like, wow, that is like really cool, because I aspire to create brands and employment across the world, similar to Sean, but hopefully I don't put everything into the one basket and just put a big bet on the table. That's not something I really want to do, but that's, I suppose, you got to learn from it. Yeah. But definitely want to do all the good stuff that he's done to the economy and all the, and all the businesses he's built. But anyways, going back to it, I am creating opportunities for myself and the companies across multiple verticals, and seeing which vertical is the best trajectory to go on. So we're just at a stage where it's like, okay, do we want to go, for example, raise a large round of funding and go and expand bigger into the States? Do we want to, for example, acquire a business, merge with them, and triple, quadruple our turnover, and to play aggressively for the next 3 to 4 years and get acquired afterwards, right? To take a significant market presence. There's so much of opportunities at the moment, and I'm just trying to really solidify which path I want to go down on, and the businesses to go down on, and that is what is my day-to-day at the moment over the last week, and hence I probably was also not in the mindset of traveling now and just going and everything, because it's just like, I'm like, I actually need to keep my head in the game and just really see which play are we going to do.
And when you have large kind of crossroads like this, do you turn to your network? Do you turn to quiet time? Like, or do you do a mixture? Like, what way are you approaching the next few weeks? Because obviously they're big decisions,
They're massive. Like, obviously I turned into some people I really trust. My board. Spoke to Garrett. I spoke to everybody I really trust, and just kind of really break down my own thoughts by saying it. It's very much like therapy. I think entrepreneurship, you need a lot of therapists around you to continuously let you express your thoughts, emotions, concerns, and let you figure it out. Like, ultimately, you're the guy that's placing the chips on the table to go, we're going left, right, or center, or we're taking all directions, right? So it depends what you really want out of it. And now I think I've spoke to enough people where I actually need quiet time, and just to really sniff out the depth of these opportunities and these journeys and paths. And then I can then go and say, I want to take X approach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I can kind of work back from that. What do I need to get there? How long is it going to take? And then really see what the outcome is. I think you have to be so good at visualizing the end goal. And fortunately, the end goal does always change, and the goalposts do always change. But your job is probably always to make sure that it's the goal you want to score in. You know what I mean? And that's like one of the big things. I'm trying to be a little bit like, okay, if we go and, for example, fundraise, and go big, and, do we want to lose kind of our smaller capacity of, like, we know each other? If we go too corporate, does that dilute the values of the business? And there's so much of that kind of thinking, inner thinking, that you just go in, and it's probably overthinking. A lot of it is noise. But this is why now I'm going into a little bit of a quiet time of like, let me just see which path I want to go and do, and then rise up and then go take that path.
Yeah. So is that kind of your entire summer then? Is that kind of what you're over the next kind of few months?
I think it's my entire next year.
Yeah.
To be transparent, I think next year I will be formulating what everything is going to look like for the next 3, 5, 10 years, because I will be taking a big decision to see which path I'm going to really, really push on.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's going to be a key decision time of like, this is where I'm going to be pushing for the next 3, 5, 10 years or beyond. And then I can really go back to work. Rather than just be thinking about it or just be preparing for it, then I can go back and push.
And what's the difference? Let's say when we started Grafton, I understand there's an age element to this, with decision making back then versus you making decisions now. What's the number one difference, or what's something that you prioritize that maybe you wouldn't have a couple of years ago when it comes to decision making at this level?
Well, I think when we started grafting, when you're like 17, 18, you don't really have a lot of other factors, but like to potentially succeed and make everyone proud around you. That's probably a big goal always to do when you're young. And, make mom, dad proud, make friends, family, proud. And it's like, okay, well, I've gone to work, I've proved it. Now I'm kind of actually looking to make a business out of it, right? I think one of the most important things for me is like if I zone out and I'm like, I'm 24, turning 25 now, it's like, what do I want to be like and, do in my 30s? Like, and kind of work back from there. So, because like the business has to shape, I have to shape the business around that trajectory because I'm like, do I want to be a key executive playing day-to-day role? Do I want to be an investor and build, an empire across the world? What do I really want to do?
Yeah.
And then I will then take that path and go for that. So it's more of a selfish decision-making process than anything. And then once you figure out what you want to do yourself, you assess, is this the best interest for the business?
Yeah.
And the people involved in the business and anybody that's invested, anybody that's interested, and then kind of align that from there. So I think there's a bit of like, you can't just be, oh, well, I just want to work on my laptop on the beach now.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work, because like I've just built up a momentum of like office presence, corporate exposure. It's a bit different. So I can't now just suddenly go for a 180.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Neither do I want to go for a 180. It's like really one of the big things I think for me is going to be where exactly do I want to solidify the direction to? And that's my main thing is like where I see myself be. So that's kind of both selfish and not selfish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's like my big thing for decision making is what am I happy doing for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
Yeah.
And then work back from that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. Like, because I suppose it's very easy. I feel like to get caught up in the rat race of just keep pumping, keep pumping, just keep head down, keep pumping money back in, money in, back, money in.
Yeah.
Delay yourself. But I definitely think that we're 7 years doing this. I think it's important to go, okay, well, what sort of lifestyle do I want to live? Am I building a business? Like, I remember posing this question when we were 18 or 19 going, is the actions we're taking today helping the vision you have for yourself in 5 years' time, or are you going against it? I think it's a really, really important question to ask because if we want to go continue building companies and keep doing that, is the actions we're taking today helping that person or hindering that person? Because if you want to have no responsibilities and go lie on the beach, much more difficult the path you're doing versus if you just sold the companies, had your 1 or 2 year exit, and then when laying the beach, well, then you're helping that goal. So it's like it is, and obviously, like you said, it's shaping the businesses because it's the interesting part about when you leave academia. I feel like everything in school is like black or white, pass or fail. There's others, it's gradings. Whereas in business, it's like there's no necessarily wrong options. There's worse options and better options, but you don't know them until after the fact. You need to take the punt to do that. So I think it's one of the things that we're talking to entrepreneurs that come out of academia, come out of a PhD, come out of a master's or a degree and start in business and they go, but what's the right option? I'm like, there is no right option.
There's no right option. Right option is the gut.
Yeah.
And it's like where you really want to like end up or what's your vision and what's your real driving force. Like that's one of the big things. If anyone's like starting a business, like you need to be able to tap into that inner source of energy and move and drive that I really want to do this. Whether like some people's drive is insecurities of like not having enough when they were small and all that kind of stuff, right? Some people's drive is to prove others wrong constantly. Some people are just ultra competitive and they will go over and above, and that competitiveness is what drives them over the edge, right? Of like, I'm going to win. And that whole, we've spoken about this countless times, but that whole delusion of self-success and self-motivation is what ultimately will get you to the peak performance of yourself and, probably open up any opportunities you do have.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of the big things, actually really interesting with going back to the documentary, a psychologist broke down the Sean Quinn attachment and the detachment of money. And it's kind of an ongoing thing where people start making a lot of money. They can do two things, get ultimately so attached to it or so detached to it. And both have their pros and cons in all sides. And like an attachment might look like that. Without the money, you are nothing, and you need to then buy lifestyle. You need to have a mansion because you're a billionaire. So, like all billionaires have a mansion. All billionaires have sports cars, private jets, of course. You know, and you start building up that whole attachment to the money cycle. The detached billionaires that are like, okay, I need a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but actually, I get paid 50 grand a year, and all my businesses just look after some of my lifestyle components. But I actually don't do it for personal wealth increase necessarily. I do it for potentially giving it to my family down the line, potentially, you know, just creating massive amount of employment or, you know, building big industry. And that's the two types of builders that exist for like business. So I've always found, I've found that really interesting, that it was broken down really nicely in the documentary. Because now I'm like, what am I? Am I attached to it or detached to it? Or what do I want to be also on that level, right? Because I think it's a very hard thing to process. When you start making any sorts of money, it's like, wow, do I just live on this? Do I check my bank account every day? Do I, you know, start to become a person that, you know, needs to be no one in the room? You know, it's like people just get so caught up in thinking about it, then they get attached to the money. Some people are like, well, I'll just still wear my black t-shirt, still show up to work, I won't even tell anybody, and I just will keep on moving, you know, small at a time. So I guess that's like always the two big paths to take.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Because I think we've seen both. Like we've seen both people who are like
100%.
Yeah, and it's like, and again, it probably a little detached from most people watching this, because, you know, most people never get to the stage where it's consideration around, you know, like how do you handle such high volumes of money, you know?
And, you know, I wish I could really talk about like how to handle it, because I'm still processing it and learning it. Like it's even hard to like somewhat, you know, in your head, like imagine, okay, my business is doing multiple 7 figures, and it's like, oh wow, like that is kind of cool. But why do I not care? What do I actually care about? And then work back from that. Like I'd be that sort of person where I'm like, I really enjoy building it. I really enjoy hiring. I really enjoy people getting invested. I really enjoy stepping back once it's working and just letting it work out. Like I don't like as much as I like to, you know, go and have some jet ski or go on a holiday, I like to do normal things like anyone else on that level. But I actually don't get so driven by the money aspect. And you remember that's when we were doing sales together. You know, I was never like too content with winning a deal. I was more content with proposing or why am I losing the deal, and then just trying to always win. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you work back from that, it's like, you know, what is your true motivation? And then but you can't tell that to a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old self of like, you are actually, you know, because you don't understand it. And still I feel like I was, one of the days this week, I met somebody at the, you know, later stage, they're like 82, and the private banker, but like he would have banked billions of euros, you know, for the last, you know, number of decades. And he goes, how long are you in business for? And I said, well, just, you know, coming up to my 8th year. Just rub my shoulder. Only starting, you know, like you're only soft, like you haven't even got through half of it. And like he just said it with such pain but admiration. I was like, okay, yes, you're probably right. I haven't even gone through half of it. You know? And then until you have a decade of experience under your belt and growing it. And it's just so hard. Like a lot of people just would like look at this and be like, oh, this guy is just talking, you know, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm like, well, just go build a business from nothing and then come and talk to me. Right? And do it for 10 consecutive years, and then, you know, see what it's like to get revenue sheriff in your door, see what it's like to you know, manage ungodly amount of legal situations or taxes or anything like that. Just see what that feels like and come back and talk to me. And, you know, because like when you build an internet business, you are taken away from all the other factors of like, employment, loads of times taxes, you're building something that can only scale so much. And when you're building an actual physical business, I feel like it can be a lot more painful because you just are exposed to way more potential liabilities, expenses and different things that come up. So, and I mean, probably the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Yeah.
That's probably also the truth. And you can tell that I've gone through a couple of wars now at this stage of like, that's why I'm actually very happy to be on the saddle I'm in. But it's like, wow, by God, like it's a tough journey to go on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because, pros and cons, pros and cons to both. Another big thing that you're focused on is just like, as the landscape of business continues to change, is like, how do you fortify, how do you strengthen the landscape you're on? Because obviously, like, especially with tech and digitalization, like, I feel like in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to drastically change massively. And I know you're heavily investing and heavily thinking about, like, how do you have a stronghold for the next 10 years? Like, how do you do that? And that's why the hardware element and the managed services side and people on site and stuff, it's really, I think you're really doubling down on that. I'm not saying the digitalization is not important because it really is, but it's
a different race. Yeah, totally. It's 100% agree. Another thing I was thinking, I was like, I actually think where what a lot of my strength will lie is, like, my strategy probably will be is, how do I acquire a lot of dinosaur businesses that are going to continue to be around this industry, but the leadership or the leadership just is getting too old and there's nobody to take over the business, or B, nobody actually wants to get into that business. And these are dinosaur businesses like transport, like, will transport drastically change in the next 20 years?
Yeah.
Do you still need a bin truck showing up and taking away your waste? Like, how do you get from A to B? I love those type of businesses because nobody's looking at them.
Yeah.
And I hope I get to that point in life where I can just take on a project like that and say, let me just open up a new industry here.
Yeah.
And just use the Grafton power of technology, network, and infrastructure to then take on a business like that and make it succeed and add it to the portfolio and keep on adding.
Yeah.
That's definitely like a dream vision of mine, to get involved in businesses I really like to be. Like, I love the aviation space.
Yeah.
How do I get into the aviation space? Do I do an Amalfi Jets type of aircraft leasing renting business? Do I do a parts and manage? I don't know. Do I do an airline? Would love to do an airline. Would need billions of dollars for it. Can someone give me billions of dollars for it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'd love to actually get into those dinosaur industries and see how can I go and make my own spin on it.
What do you think about Colin from Amalfi Jets?
What do I think of Colin? The guy, he's doing exactly what he needs to do to make money. And that is to do these skits, do this thing, and make the whole private jet rental space, probably a little bit more accessible for people. I wouldn't go and do what he does on the internet. I feel like it's a lot of waste of time. But again, if it gets him business, gets him recognition, gets him free marketing, why not?
Yeah.
So you can tell he's very structured in what he does.
Yeah.
He's
He's our age.
Is he?
He's like 25, 26.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, he's super young as well. I remember seeing his age and I was like, that's pretty cool.
I mean, fair play to him because, I think from what I've heard is he started like studying to become a pilot, or wanted to become a pilot, realized how expensive it was, similar to me, and then went on and started Amalfi.
Yeah, and he's qualified in small planes.
Small planes,
yeah.
He's a private pilot. And that's really cool. And don't knock the guy. Like, I'm like, full on go for it, but again, it's just his method of customer acquisition. Yeah. It's just his method.
Yeah.
I follow him actually. I think some of his stuff is funny, or some of the things he talks about is, whether it's true or not, I don't care, but it's like entertaining.
Yeah.
So, and that's one side of his business is entertainment.
Yeah, and he's also like, obviously there's a certain clientele that can afford private jet chartering, but he's also opened up the reserve membership, so a monthly membership for people with like concierge stuff. So you can skip the line at restaurants, you can get chauffeur stuff, like dropping it down.
Yeah.
That, people, because he's got hundreds of thousands of followers, not millions of followers, and just you can definitely see his method of how do I bring this down to the lower ticket items. I can try and monetize this audience because he's such a large audience. Because he's the first ever that I've seen, anyways, private chartering company that has actually started doing content on socials. That you know, and I think he's done quite a good job at it. So yeah, no, it's an interesting one. It is the push and pull because even some of the programs I'm in, some of the accelerators and stuff. Like I post some online. I do some founder-led content because it's part of the strategy with Magnate. And some of the people on some of my accelerators are like, "Oh, I could never do that." I'm like, "Well, your competition might be willing to do that."
Yeah.
I'm like, especially early days. I personally am a belief, to an extent, it's any means necessary.
100%.
It's it is wherever your customers
Whatever
are.
it takes.
Whatever it takes. And the idea that like getting on camera is the blockade, I'm like, you can't win. I don't think you can win. If something as menial as that, or if you're like, I'm not willing to do that for whatever reason, but I'll do anything else, and I'm doing 100%
You're
force.
setting exceptions then, and it's just not. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're trying to then curate the market, and you're trying to decide how this should play out because you just need to keep knocking on doors. And again, I know you've been excellent at this over the years. You just keep like pushing on opportunities. And if it actually opens a little easier than you anticipated, you go, maybe there's more investigation needs to be done here. And you just keep just looking at opportunities.
Yeah.
And then that opens, you go, okay, let me have a little look in here, you know?
Let me look in. Okay, this is messier than I thought. Close the door, lock it, and throw the key away.
Literally, you know? Because people, I always get asked, especially the car park and stuff, it's always people ask, like, how do you get these opportunities? Like, how did you end up with this? Or how did you end up with Magna? Or how did you end up in this program? Or how did you end up doing this? And it's like, because I just keep throwing shit at the wall and seeing like what sticks. And then if I'm like, I actually like the root of that, or this plays into my wider plan of what I want to accomplish. Yeah, it's interesting.
You just have to go and go for it. And like thing with the car park as well, we were in the technology space supporting a parking software.
Yeah.
And then we became the managing partner of the parking software. And the parking software then got the customer. The customer needed somebody to come in and take a percentage of their real estate. We were well able to do it.
Yeah.
And we went and done it without really even thinking. We just said, you know, I was like, come on, let's do it. In fairness, you were on my side. I got definitely some pushback on the other side. But we're like, let's go do it.
Yeah.
Right? What could go wrong?
Well,
and
again, it's valuable real estate.
It's valuable real estate. Like given the opportunity to have something as valuable as a car park in a city centre location to a growing market like of you know real estate acquisition, like the price in real estate in Galway has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
It's like having the opportunity cannot be that wrong to get it, and we'll just figure out everything else.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like, oh, what if it doesn't make profit in 12 months? I see so many people being so analytical about it. It's like, that's not business.
Yeah.
That's accountancy.
Yeah.
I have a good accountant that'll tell me when I run short. Don't tell me before I even start that I'm going to run short.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need somebody that's going to be like, oh, this can be done.
Yeah.
You know, how do we do this? Okay, we pull and drag and do this and market it. That's failed. Giveaway. That's failed. Oh, Airbnbs, partnerships.
Hotels.
Clicked.
Yeah.
And then it was like, we just threw enough shit at the wall.
Yeah.
And it started sticking. And then when it stuck, it's like double down and go push, go gonko, don't pull back. All of a sudden, you don't need to be as careful of projecting and doing everything like that.
And now it's like, it's even interesting with it. It's like, it's fantastic now that like, it's actually at an optimization stage where like, we actually have enough deals done now where everything's just flowing. It's like, okay, how could we tweak? How could we reactivate? How can we ignite that activation? How can we like push that door in slightly? There's like at least 5 activations currently I can see they could up it. And it's just gonna be like just lightly just see which one hits the hardest. Because some might go, no, not interested, or couldn't be bothered, which is completely fine. You know, there's an element of pushing and leaving stuff. But there's a couple of activations now I was even talking to you about earlier. I'm like, I just need to probably do these like couple items. And I actually think that could be a huge lever increase.
100%, but remember, like, when you, like, let's say have 100,000 of revenue coming in, every 5-10% starts to add a significant add-on to your bottom line.
Yeah.
So you don't need to do 50% every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Only in the first like couple years of your startup, you need to start doubling and doubling and doubling. But then like 20% of when you have 6 million turnover, that's starting to be a huge increase in your overall business.
Yeah.
You maintain your 6 million at 20% each year. it's starting to become a really, really nice business.
Yeah.
So it's not all about every day of the week you're trying to double, or grow it massive percentages. Obviously, like you're in a very aggressive competitive space, the AI space, brand new space, race to the market, massive amounts of capital deployed across many different, industries and purposes and uses, which means it's like you need to be hot cake and you need to go really, really and push in. In, let's say, my space now with technology, it's actually not speed to market anymore, right? It's more like, how do you define market ownership and how do you acquire more of the existing market?
Yeah.
Remember, you're in a market as well that's just only been popular for the last 12 to 24 months,
Yeah.
the whole AI market. And there's, of course, going to be companies like that Lovable Crowd that comes out and it's like massive revenue per head and it's a great success. And that is because they're just in a massively growing market, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting to see, will they fundraise, will they buy, or what's going on? Because they actually have so much cash in the bank.
There's so much cash.
So...
But the really interesting one I learned, and it's actually something interesting that I've kind of only come across and learned recently, is that like a business and like to say the startup tech landscape is nowhere near the same, and they actually should be treated extremely differently. Like what we're talking about here with like the likes of a car park, it's like, okay, car park, real estate, how many cars come in every day? Obviously there's a huge tourism piece of Galway, there's people that live outside the city, you have to drive in, there's some public transport, but the adoption's not great. So like obviously like that just makes sense, and it's just a matter of like which thing. But when you're creating a new software and even looking at like trying to build into the future, like I think I said this in the podcast before, to be able to get someone to pay even 20 quid a month for a software needs to be so good. And it's why a lot more the looking at financials, looking at go to market, like really going deep on all that. And it's one thing a lot of investors would look at is like, it's the person, but it's more the person's thought process of how do they think about all these areas. Because like the problem will change, the solution will change, the person will remain the same, but how they think about it, how diligent they are and how they look at the go to market. Because the other big one, which I definitely made a mistake at early days, is I was obsessive about revenue. But the big one in my space is just relentlessly focus on building a software people absolutely love and don't want to stop using. Because once you do that, revenue will follow,
So it's addiction and gamification.
Yeah, and again, we're going super deep on that.
Yeah.
Like we're about to partner with the University of Galway to do a full research paper, might even be published, which would be kind of cool. Everyone
That would be really cool.
Yeah, it kind of would be cool. But looking around how people interact with inboxes and how can we make this the most rewarding platform
Experience.
for people, and then like phase 3 could be like, how do we customize this platform to each individual person that makes it the best, the most rewarding, and something, because again, at the end of the day with software, it's like, I saw Alex Hormozy talk about this. He's like, for $8 a month, Netflix gives you all the content ever created. And some people go, that's not worth it anymore. The $8 a month, that is not worth all the content ever created.
Let me get 2 balls of Prime.
Yeah, like with me, it's like, and again, it was the big one with social media. It was one of the big learnings from that was, we weren't good enough at that stage, and maybe we were not wrong. The customer demographic, a series of things. We were on the chopping block when push came to shove. And with Magnate, I really looked at it and gone, people have to message every day, given, grant. Every knowledge worker sends messages, grant. Okay, it's a huge market, huge potential. I'm looking at the upper echelon of that demographic, mainly particular services businesses and then tech, startup scale-ups and then larger companies. And I go, who's sending the most messages? And I go, how do I help these people out? Because these people are spending their entire life switching between inboxes, and then everything around that is solving that problem. So I have it's a beautiful market in the sense that people understand there's messaging. The problem is rampant. All I need to do is focus on creating that solution, and which we're working on, that solves that. And then even recessions hit, when things get hard with the business, you're not the thing to churn, because they're like, I can't go back to this never-ending stream of messages. I can't go back to not having the ability to have control of it. And that's the big one that came out of our MVP trials, is that it's actually anxiety around missing messages or not having control, because all these inboxes, if you think about it, it's just constantly reactive. There's actually no control. versus with Magnet, everything is about like, how can we customize and give control back and reward people for having, like the aim is that everyone has an empty inbox at the end of every day. And that's completely doable with what we're doing. So interesting thing, but again, with the gamification and obviously rewarding users.
That's going to be your value piece,
Yeah.
really, and that's where, you know, multi-million and hopefully $1 billion of value can be unlocked.
Yeah.
Is getting people, you know, through their messages faster, smarter, and then going into the next phase, which I won't even drop, but that was the whole, that space that, you know, yourself and Eamon were talking about. That is the future, and that is really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, whoever does that first, that's like a really cool thing.
It's on the back end roadmap next week is just relentless on that. It's just build.
I think that is. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
if you can get there, and when you get there, it's like, wow.
Because like if you think about just busy people, it's like when you're when you're on the move, how do you make handling messages as easy as possible? And that's
actually, when you do that, actually, you should actually buy my companies. Is what you should do as like a charitable donation.
Would you like that?
Yeah, it would take $50 million for it.
Yeah, the EBITDA multiple in those businesses are tough.
Okay, I'll remember that one.
The game is the game. The
game is the game.
Anyways, I'd say we're probably ran over now at this point.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for watching Build From Scratch, episode number 25 with Erik and Dara. So we do this every week. We're on every single platform. So make sure you check us out, like, subscribe, and let us know about anything you want us to talk about or any questions. Make sure we have an email. What's our email?
buildfromscratchpod@gmail.com.
buildfromscratchpod@gmail.com, or hit us up on Instagram or anywhere like that. We'll see you next week.